Please welcome to the stage Brooks Buffington, Tyler Droll from Yik Yak.
Hello.
What's up, guys?
Hello.
How you feeling about the stage?
Doing well.
Doing well?
Georgia sun.
Yeah? Nice and bright? Okay. We met a year ago. I just kind of told everyone the story. Let's just talk about like growth, like what the last year has been like, because you guys literally, it's a rocket, right? So what's going on?
Yeah, seriously, it's been a fun ride. And first off, thanks for having us.
Of course.
We met a little over a year ago, and a lot has happened since then. I mean, I think when we met, we were on tens of colleges.
I think 5.
Yeah, and now we're on over 1,000 in pretty much every college in America.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been great to create something that, has really resonated with college kids across the nation. I mean, this idea that you have all these people around you, but, you couldn't connect to them easily before, but these are all people who are seeing the same things, experiencing the same things, but you may not have, connected with them on Twitter or Facebook because they may not have been in your social network.
So another thing that we like to use in the tech world to determine a company's success is whether or not they have a founder suing them. You guys do. It only took a year, which is impressive, right? Evan and all of them, they had like 2 or 3 years before any of this happened. Can you tell us about the status of the lawsuit? Anything that's going on with that?
Unfortunately, we can't talk about that.
Which means it hasn't settled. So that's something.
Can't talk about it.
Can't talk about it. Okay, good. I'm glad we got it out of there. I think we should just jump into like what the value of Anonymous, because for the last like year and a half, it's not just been Yik Yak. There was Secret, and Whisper was kind of its own version of Anonymous. Like, you guys have always seemed to genuinely have the intention that, and I say this from knowing you, that Anonymous is something that's good for the world. To be able to communicate anonymously is actually bringing value to people. But we see so much negativity come through on Anonymous too. Like, how do you guys keep a clean network? Like, how do you guys think about the value of Anonymous? Why is it more valuable than having my name attached to something?
Yeah, so we approach it a little differently than a number of anonymous apps out there. The first thing is we're like location or community first, and then anonymity second. So it's all about fostering this place where you can come and connect with your community. And anonymity creates this level playing field. So you can be the star athlete, the quietest kid in the class. You can yak something to Yik Yak and have the same amount of people reading it, interacting with it, talking to you. And that's kind of the value anonymity brings.
Yeah, I think some people kind of have a framing in their mind of what anonymity is all about. To us, the framing is, no profile and an equal playing field. So, the quiet kid in class, his content is judged just the same as the most popular kid in class. And it also allows you to kind of move more freely, in terms of who you are and what you're interested in. So, for instance, I may be, the popular football star, and I may not post about, really wanting to see the Avengers movie on my Facebook or something like that, because people may say, well, that's not like him. Why is he doing that? But now I can kind of float through my multiple personas and, really be whoever I want to be. And I think it resonates really well with college kids, because college is kind of like this time when you're like, yeah, I'm finally at college. I can be myself, and, I can kind of break free of, my high school stereotype. And so I think that's why it's resonated in so many ways.
I want to pick that apart a little bit, because like you said a few different things. Is my mic on? Can I please have a stick mic? It's me, guys. I don't know. I'm sorry. Thank you, Susan. All right. So you said a few different things. I'm going to try to keep my train of thought. You said a few different things. You said multiple personas, and you said be myself and be whoever I want to be. Those to me sound like a number of different things, and I realize that college is about like discovering yourself. But Anonymous allows someone to pretend to be the star football player, or to pretend to be this person or that person. And like, what value is that to the readers or to the poster if they're not actually being true to themselves? Why give them that outlet in the first place? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that the community usually does a pretty good job of, determining if something's, real or fake. Maybe not necessarily in the terms of personas, but in terms of, a news event or something like that happening on campus, like everyone can upvote it and downvote it and actually say, this is real or this is not, So in that sense, if someone says, hey, I'm, the quarterback of the football team and blah, 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 people will say, well, no, you're not, downvote or whatever.
Okay. So I want to tell you guys a story about a Yik Yak experience that I had. So I was on and I've kind of been hard on you guys before in terms of Anonymous. I don't actually think that I don't like the whole idea of Anonymous, so just being upfront about it. But I went on and I was in New York and I saw these two guys and they essentially made a friendship. And they were talking about how they were having trouble finding friends. They talked about their lives. It was a long, long thread. And then people started chiming in, being like, you guys, this is so cool. We're making friends on Yik Yak. Let's go hang out. Let's all go meet at a bar tomorrow at 7 p.m. Like, upvote it if you want to go. I didn't go. But, but I did check back on it. And I said, hey, like, whatever happened with this? Did you guys ever meet up? Like, what's going on? And one person responded and said, I was the only one who showed up. Yeah, sad. But here's the thing. How do I know that that guy wasn't just guilt-tripping the rest of us? So like, without any sincerity or verification, the content, no matter how good it feels, is like tapered by the fact that you don't know whether or not it's real.
So we see tons of like really cool meetup stories like this. People have organized blood drives and like mouth swabs for bone marrow transplant donors, like crazy stuff. People have said, hey, I found this lost dog, is this anyone's? And then the owner found their dog that way. Or people, I know one couple's been dating for 3 months and they met through Yik Yak.
Yeah.
There's like crazy stuff happens like this on a daily basis.
One thing that we've done product-wise to try to kind of keep these sorts of things from happening is introducing kind of replier icons so that you can tell, who someone is within a replier thread. So, that person that said, I was the only one that showed up, if they hadn't have posted in the thread earlier, you would have been like, okay, well, where was your icon in this thread earlier? You didn't actually, contribute to the conversation.
Right. That's actually really smart. Secret did that. Did you hear that they shut down?
Very, very unfortunate when any company shuts down. I know we took a very different approach. I don't know all the details of their story, but I mean, from day one, we're all about, location and community. Even from our name, it's Yik Yak, chit chat, not about like confessing something.
Do you think that Yik Yak means chit chat? It doesn't.
It's the hope for the original name. When we were first starting it, we wanted the name chatter or chit chat, essentially kind of like the buzz that you hear in an audience before, a movie starts or something like that. Chatter was taken by Salesforce. And
stupid Mark.
So we moved on. We wanted chit chat. I think that was taken too. And
Common.
Tyler's mom and dad came up with the idea for Yik Yak as the name.
Okay, but I'm not going to sway away from secret just yet. Do you think that the fact that, because what I hear from a lot of founders when they're talking about their competitors is always, and I'm pretty sure you guys are all coached to say the same thing, which is it validates the space. Thank God they're there. They're helping build the anonymous whatever. So with secret shutting down, do you feel like that's actually kind of a blow to Anonymous as a whole?
I think the different approaches we take is shown through the amount of growth we've had. College kids, they use our app, they spread our app across the country, and now they're trying to spread it outside of America too, and they continue to use it. So I think no matter what happens to other apps, I think our app is in really good shape.
Yeah, I think that if you were to ask a college kid, what makes Yik Yak special, knee-jerk reaction, they may say, oh, it's the anonymity. But I think in reality, what they really like about it is the fact that they're connected to their community. So like, we just released a new feature where I can kind of tether back to my college campus. And so even when I'm home over summer, or if I go abroad, or I'm just visiting my parents for the weekend, I can still stay connected to my community. Because people feel like such an attachment to this kind of group of people.
That's really cool. Okay, so you've raised $73.5 million, which is a lot, in a year. Have you made any money?
We haven't made any money. We're fortunate enough to find really supportive investors that allow us to just keep our heads down, focus on building the best user experience, allowing users to connect locally and honestly. And we're fortunate enough to be able to just focus solely on that.
Yeah, don't worry about the money is what they say in Silicon Valley. But in New York, they say worry about the money. So yeah. So I'm wondering, thank you. I'll be here all week. So I'm wondering, when we first talked, you guys talked about paying extra to expand the location of the yak. That was really, really early on. And that's gone away with now. Like, what can we expect? Can you give us at least a hint as to what you might do in terms of monetization? I would guess location-based ads, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Potentially. I mean, I think that the idea is that if you build up a large enough user base that's super engaged, like our users are, it's kind of like shame on you if you can't find out a way to monetize it. So I think these sorts of things kind of linger in the back of our minds, but it's nothing that we're looking to even test at this point.
Okay. You did mention growth earlier, and we have talked about the fact that you went from 5 to like 1,000 or more schools. Is there any other metrics that you can share with us in terms of how you guys have been growing or progressing, whether it's users or yaks or whatever it might be?
Not too many more metrics we can share. It's just that like we're on pretty much every college campus and continue to grow on them. I think now we're starting to expand into the UK and Canada and Australia. And hopefully soon we'll expand into other countries also. Yeah,
they're demonstrating the same sort of growth that the US did last spring when we first met you, so that's promising.
That's awesome. Let's talk about like the high school stuff and the bullying. That was a while ago, but there were issues with the high school kids just couldn't handle Anonymous, is what it seemed like at school. They were using the app in negative ways, and you guys geofenced that to not include high schools, right? Is that how it worked? Mm-hmm. So you actually kind of carved away a whole group of users for the sake of the app as a whole. Can you just talk about like the decision making on that and like how you came to that conclusion and whether or not you feel like it's panned out?
Yeah, so from very early on we wanted like to build a sustainable social network, and nobody wants like offensive content on there, and especially we don't. So we take whatever measures we need to get it all off of there. So early on we blocked the app at pretty much every high school campus across America. And so if you open it there, it just says, hey, you cannot use it here. Yeah. And it's like, early on, it's like, hey, we need good growth, not growth at all costs if we want to be around in a year, which we still are.
Yeah, I think it was something where we were seeing how it was being used on college campuses, and like, at the time, Franklin and Marshall University, as an instance, they imposed a rule that freshmen couldn't go to parties, and freshmen were staying in their dorms and getting really drunk and having to go to the hospital a lot. And literally a reform of this rule was organized through Yik Yak. So we see stuff like that happening, and then we look at how it's being used, you know, on high school campuses, and we're just like, this is not how we see it should be being used.
I have seen, even with that little meetup thing and the guy who might or might not have been guilt tripping me, I truly do see the value and the good feelings that can come from Yik Yaks. When people post something really positive and you feel like some relatability or connection to a stranger that you know is maybe a few hundred feet away. Mm-hmm. But you guys do get a bad rap in the press a lot because the press tends to focus on the negative. My bad. Can we pull up the screenshot that I had talked about? So when I was prepping for this interview, on a random day, I Googled Yik Yak, and there's like nothing good here.
community bands together after suicidal note on Yik Yak.
What?
Second one from the bottom.
The second one from the bottom is good?
Yeah, it was a really cool, the top one, it was a really cool instance where someone posted about, you know, being down in the dumps about exams, and the entire University of Michigan kind of community came together along with their administration and kind of did a positivity day, like on campus, in person. I forget, they had a name for this person because they set a date or something like that, and it was just total positivity. It's kind of one of those instances of where, you know, someone may not have posted that on another form of social media, but here they felt comfortable enough to post that, and the community banded together as a result.
And so, like, how do you guys ensure that, like, when you're growing your community, that when a kid, like, hears about Yik Yak and they maybe type Yik Yak into their iTunes or whatever, into their Google, like, how do you maybe sway public opinion, or how do you get more of those stories out there? Because it is anonymous, right? So it's not like you guys are sharing everybody's information or stories. How do you make sure that people know that there are great things happening on Yik Yak too, and not just bomb threats?
Yeah, well, step one is we come to events like this and kind of share everything cool that's happening. And it is unfortunate when some of the bad stuff will get more attention and a lot of the good stuff. And so we have lots of things in place to make sure if someone does get on the app, they don't see any bad stuff. So we have tons of filters, we have these geofences. We just made a hire who can help identify bad language and good language and classify yaks. So we're doing everything we can to make sure the community is as healthy as possible.
Yeah, and I think from a user standpoint, I mean, most of our growth occurs through word of mouth. So when these students are sharing it with each other, they're usually having pretty good experiences with the app. And so, it's not too difficult for them to pass it along and say, hey, check this out. There's, funny or useful information on here.
So I want to talk a little bit about Peak, the feature. So the whole idea is that I'm within my own kind of community and location. When I open the Yik Yak in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, I'm around a bunch of hipsters and they're all chatting about whatever. But Peak takes me out of that and sends me somewhere else. Explain why that happens. Why is Peak even a feature?
Yeah, it's a chance to look in somewhere else in the world. So I encourage anyone in the audience to check out your alma mater, peek in there. We love doing that to Furman University, and it's like you can finally tap in somewhere and see this like honest and authentic conversation. So when Ted Cruz announces candidacy for president at Liberty University, everyone was peeking in, seeing what the students were saying about it as they were like forced to go attend his event.
It was literally broken through Yik Yak that the students were forced to attend the announcement. So it's one of these things where, Twitter, for how great it is, you still have to go through some people, and a few powerful people can kind of control the lion's share of what's being said and kind of the lens that you're viewing something through. But with Yik Yak, I can kind of just look directly in on the ground and see what people there are saying. It's like the Truman Show on a global scale, where nothing's getting in the way. You can just look in and see what's happening.
That's cool. Let's see here. You guys you graduated from Furman. You're in the South. You're based in Atlanta right now, right? Headquarters are in Atlanta. So, I mean, that's very removed from the general tech hubs, although Atlanta is definitely up and coming, and we've seen amazing stuff come out of Atlanta. I mean, can you talk a little bit about like what it's like to be a startup there, and like the support system, the scene, and like why you're staying there? Why not just fly off to New York, not Silicon Valley?
Yeah, so number one, that's where we're from. That's where our family is. So we started there, and we want to just build it there. We have an awesome opportunity to change like the tech landscape of the whole Southeast. There's not many consumer apps there, and we have a chance to really build a name and a brand there, and hopefully encourage more people to stay there. There's awesome schools like Georgia Tech, where these kids...
UGA, you mean?
UGA also. And they can graduate, and they think they have to go work at Google or Facebook, but they can take a year, try to start something in Atlanta. And just like we did, we want to encourage more people to do that.
Yeah, and I think there's probably also the myth that, every great engineer is from Silicon Valley or, New York City. And, the fact of the matter is a lot of people are from the East Coast or from the Southeast. And so it's not too difficult for us to be able to attract talent from, the Googles or the Dropboxes or, those sorts of places, and say, hey, you're traveling to New York City and, SF, every week. Wouldn't you just want to stay in Atlanta with your family and just work with us? And it's a pretty easy sell.
How old are you guys? Is that a rude question?
That's very rude.
I'm gonna ask anyway.
24.
And you're also 24? So you guys started this like a year and a half ago, but you guys were building apps before that. You were like, you wanted to build an app. Can you tell us about like the early days of what was happening there? You guys built a number of different apps, I think. And then Yik Yak was the one that took off.
Yeah, so we tried a number of different apps. I was headed to med school. I was like, all right, we got to launch one at least before I go to med school just to see if we like it. Launched it. We fell in love with it. I'm like, all right, let's just keep doing this. This is great. Our parents are like, how are you going to make money? Similar question. But we had so much fun doing that on a daily basis. We programmed throughout senior year. After we graduated, we found a co-working space to move into. Early days, lots of scooters, ping pongs, fruit snacks, whatever. Just all-night programming sessions.
Continuing college.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay, so my last question, as our time dwindles, what's the greatest challenge ahead for Yik Yak?
Answering this question. Let's see. We want to keep growing and taking it beyond college campuses, and this is the most exciting challenge too. It's like, here we are, we've dominated the college market, and we're going to continue to dominate it. Now we need to go dominate the post-grad and international. It's like, how do we do that? We have tons of really good ideas, and now we have to go do it.
Yeah, and I think too, also expanding internationally, we've done such a good job of setting the right tone, domestically, of how the app should be used. And it's one of those things where once you set it, it's set and you can't change it. And so making sure that as we expand, to post-grad or to international markets, making sure that that right tone is set, and it's always going to be the Yik Yak that we know and love.
Really good job, guys. You totally made it through.
Awesome.
Awesome. Can you guys please give them a round of applause? Here you go.